Yep, can you hear, Mr. McKay, can you hear us?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, there you go.
This is the best thing ever. We can talk about it. We can't talk about it.
Or I could just leave and
No, I wanted to hear me. I just don't want to hear me. That's really what I was hoping for.
On behalf of Chair Wheeler, we are welcoming Supervisor Franklin to our meeting today. He's going to make a couple of motions. Welcome. Board Member Crystal. Here. Mayor Wilson.
Here.
Mayor David Younger. Mayor Rischel. Here. Mayor Meyer.
Here.
Senator Boysko. Here. Delegate Watts. Here. Delegate Rome will be in. She is otherwise detained, but she will be in. Ms. Hines, here. There you are. Mr. Cole. And is Mayor Burke on? Is supposed to be doing this remotely?
Dave Snyder on by phone. Thank you.
Snyder? Snyder is here. Okay. There's no number for her, okay. Mr. Lynch?
Here.
And Ms. Mitchell, I know that you are. All right, there we go. So, authority members, if you've all looked over the minutes of the September meeting, has everyone come to the minutes of the September meeting with the exception of Ms. Franklin? We have a motion to approve. Motion to approve. Motion made, is the second the motion? Second. Okay, it's been a second by Ms. Crystal. Discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
You're opposing?
Said I.
Oh, you came in late. You came in late.
Probably late.
And I think, Ms. Franklin, you are going to abstain on this vote, correct? We have to have, with 2 abstentions and everyone else has voted aye. Thank you. So we have a couple of presentations and we're going to go on and do those first. Oh, I'm sorry, wait a minute before we do that. Mr. Snyder, would you like us to do the action? Do you have to jump off the phone? Would you like us to do the action items?
Yes, I'm on the phone now. Thank you.
Yes, but do you have to get off the phone? So we can do the action items if you'd like us, we can do those first.
Sure, if you wouldn't mind.
We would not mind at all. The first action item is approval of the forward appropriation to widen Route 1 to 6 lanes between Brady Hill Road and Dumfries Road. Mr. Longi, would you like to talk about, actually, Mr. Longi, if you don't mind taking 5 and 6. 6 is also in Prince William County, widen Route 51, between Brady Hill and Dumfries Road, Route 234, because these two items kind of go together. The motions will be made separately, but you can present them together.
Thank you, Chair Randall. This is actually a follow-on action to summarize the staff report. This is a follow-on action from the authority's March 2021 activity where the authority defunded the activity fund, but canceled the SPA appropriation for an earlier tranche of funding for the Dumfries project, which is widening Route 1 in town. And effectively creating a main street for the town, and transferred the project from the town to Prince William County based on agreements between Prince William County and the town. The purpose for that was to, with Prince William County's in-depth experiences in construction along Route 1, was to pick up some management enhancements and utilize that experience to actually move the project further and faster. That activity is not related to this appropriation. In fact, this appropriation was part of the 6-year program. It was originally scheduled for fiscal 23, but we're proposing to move it up to fiscal 22. The NDTA staff is comfortable with this because the appropriation total for the 6-year plan in fiscal 22 is actually the lowest we've ever had. It was only a little over 33 million, even though this project is 44.8 million. We don't think it's going to cause any fiscal concerns. And the reason for the out of cycle is when the appropriation deadline came through at the end of January, the project was still managed by the town of Dumfries. Since that time, Prince William County has taken it over and has said that they could utilize a forward appropriation in order to keep the project momentum going. So that basically describes where we are with the forward appropriation. We need the appropriation in order for the authority to be able to approve the SPA, which is the formal contract, as you know, for the execution of the project. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions or can take the motions.
Any questions for Mr. Longley? Seeing none. Ms. Franklin, would you like to make two separate motions?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move authority approval of the FY 2022 Regional Revenue Fund appropriation of $44,860,000 for the widening of Freely Boulevard, also known as Route 1, from Brady's Hill to Dumfries Road.
Motion's made, is there a second on the motion? Second, there you go. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion will pass 13-0-1 with Ms. Sloan being out of the room. Ms. Beckett, would you like to make another motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move approval of the proposed standard project agreement 2018-053-2, Prince William County, the widening of Route 1, known as Freely Boulevard, to 6 lanes between Brady's Hill Road and Dumfries Road, in accordance with MBTA's approved project description sheet as appended to the standard project agreement, and authorize the Chief Executive Officer to sign on behalf of the authority.
Motion passed, is there a second on the motion? Second. Okay, so there you go. I'm gonna give this one, get the last one to Ms. Younger, the second will be to Ms. Risho. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion will pass. Well, any additional concessionary funding recommendations, Ms. Beck? I know.
Madam Chair, the town of Vienna is requesting additional concessionaire funding for their project, which, let me get back to my bearing. So they have, just to give everyone a reminder, back in June of 2018, as part of the concessionaire agreement for the Transform 66 outside the Beltway, or I should say June of 2017, the authority, with input from localities and jurisdictions around the region, made a recommendation on a project list for concessionaire funding. The amount of funding available was $500 million. The town did receive a project as part of that funding stream, and they need an additional $200,000 for their Nutley Street shared use path. And as you'll see from Ms. Shaw's presentation this evening, that amount is available out of the balance of the concessionaire fund. So with your endorsement tonight, the recommendation will go forward to the Commonwealth Transportation Board. They are the entity responsible for the final programming and allocation of the concessionaire fund.
Wonderful. Any questions, Ms. Backlund? Seeing none, Mr. Chairman McKay, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I would. I move approval of the authority recommendation to the Commonwealth Transportation Board to allocate an additional $200,000 in I-66 concession funds to Nutley Street shared use path, Virginia Center Boulevard to Tapawingo Road.
Second.
So, motion's been made, seconded. Is there discussion on the motion? Seeing none, discussing the motion. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes. I got the second. I started discussing the motion. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion will pass 13-0-1. Of course, Mayor Meyer did second that motion. All right, approval for call for projects already.
So Madam Chair, it's that time of year again where we ask the authority to approve the call for projects for fiscal year 2028 congestion mitigation, air quality, and regional surface transportation program funds, otherwise known as CMAQ and RSTP funds. We work with the RJAC, Regional Jurisdiction and Agency Coordinating Committee, to make a programming recommendation, usually around $80 million or so combined for CMAQ and RSTP funds. This is for fiscal year 2028. So we anticipate coming to the authority as part of our project schedule in February of next year for endorsement of the CMAQ and RSTP FY 2028 projects. I say endorsement because, again, the Commonwealth Transportation Board is the entity responsible for final programming of CMAQ and RSTP funds. And yes, this is out year money, but we are required to program CMAQ and RSTP to be consistent with the life of the 6-year improvement program that's adopted by the Commonwealth Transportation Board. So tonight, if you endorse the call for project applications, submissions are due January 14th of next year. So we try to allot plenty of time. The team sheet, transportation emissions measure sheet that has to go with the CMAQ project is due January 28th. And then we also require resolution of support from the governing body that's also due January 28th. We anticipate again coming to the authority in February or March of next year for your endorsement, so it can be included in the 6-year improvement program.
Seems to come up quickly.
It does come up quickly.
All right, are there any questions to Ms. Blackwell? Yes, ma'am.
Looking at the page 2 under federal documentation, could there be a typo under the must be submitted by January 29, 2020? It's where on the form.
Oh, it's on the form?
Yeah, and on the second page of the form where it says number 3 federal state documentation and it says must be submitted by.
Yes, thank you. We will correct that.
You thought you missed it already? Is that what
We got ours. Keep it going.
Our time is-
That's right. Keep it going. We're good.
Thank you for catching that. Any other questions? All right, somebody like to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I move authority approval of the issuance of call projects for FY 2028 CMAQ and RSVP funds.
Motion made by Mr. Wilson, is there a second? Second by Mr. Cole. Thank you. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion will pass 13-0-1. All right, approval of Chief Executive Officer position description, which is number 9 in your package. Basically, this is just simply, since the name of the position had changed, we have to put the description under the name. If you look at them side by side, we went through them actually. Danielle, raise your hand. My staff went through them side by side and did not see any changes. And so if there are any changes, I did not see any. So basically, we're saying this is the description Ms. Bagman has been using, and although the change of name has happened, change of description has not really happened, but we did have to go back and do another description under a new name. So any discussion on that, questions on that? All right, I move authority approval of the attached draft chief executive position officer. I'm sorry, I move authority approval of the attached draft chief executive officer position description. That was a motion. Thank you. Thank you. Motion's made, seconded by Ms. Hines. Thank you, Ms. Hines. Appreciate that. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion will pass 13-0-1. Okay, how about Mr. Snyder? Are you still with us?
Yeah.
Has he gone?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to back up to the top of the agenda and go back to presentations. So the first presentation is, so back to item 4 is Transform 66 outside of the Beltway Concession B project updates, please.
Pardon the awkwardness, we lost the connection here. So
Okay.
Margaret's reestablishing it, and I'm going to communicate to her over cell phone to forward the slides.
All right, can go to another item until you're ready.
Unless you can do it, Eric.
I think so.
While we're waiting, I do want to introduce everybody to Danielle Campbell. Danielle, can you raise your hand? Danielle is my new staff who's taking care of constituent services, which is really, really easy. And and all regional meetings. She will be at every regional meeting. That's why I did want her to join us. So please, Campbell. Used to work for the first lady, so this is big step down.
Oh, wait. She said she was playing it.
Yeah, bring down the PowerPoint.
Sure thing.
Stop.
Sharing.
I remember, well, truthfully, when they get to be teenagers, everything no too. But it's a different reason.
You're not getting. So it's awesome. Your actions have consequences.
Wow. Also the fact. That age too. Also the fact.
Teacher. Easy go. Each
Okay.
It's coming?
Apparently,
The videos on
I
your.
think he's just a lot more charming. Bad attitude, right?
So can you try and share?
I guess it's kind of weird, where you think your kid's an angel, and they're not only terror at school.
It's somewhere.
It's on just a regular
But I think-
MTA screen.
That's why they're so cute.
I know it's crazy.
Mhm.
It's crazy how bad.
I know, I was.
And also how.
Can you stop sharing?
Here, I'll get it. I'll step it off.
How long did you guys?
All right.
I forgot to tell me you had the baby and I was like, what you did?
Yeah, you had that right.
I remember the same thing. I was like,
That's all right.
Although you did, have your time to share with us. He was born on Saturday, the following Saturday was our public hearing. Which was an absolute circus, so I was dialed into that meeting. I didn't have to be there first. It was like,
Vice Chairman, thank you for having me here tonight. I did want to start tonight with a video of our progress on our 66 project. And so we'll start with that, and then I'll go into our concession fee projects.
Okay, go ahead and start the video. Start it now.
Since financial close in December 2017. This video highlights progress during the third quarter of 2021. On any given day in the school, there are made over $8.6 billion worth. And you'll see in the next $3 billion design build project is truly transforming our 66 corridor. We began on the western end of the corridor, looking west towards the University Park and Ride lot on the upper right. This opened with 900 parking spaces in October of 2019. Today, OmniRide provides bus service up to the lot. Eventually, they'll have to rent express lanes access at the University Bridge. Here, moving to the east, you can see the Balls Ford Park and Ride lot coming along with new direct connect ramps and from the new express lanes under construction in the median of I-66. Throughout the western end of the corridor, 66 has been widened to the outside. Traffic is considered so the park and the median area can begin. Looking west at the Sudley interchange, a new collector distributor bridge separates exiting traffic from the main line of I-66 and open to traffic. Moving on to the Centerville area, we see work at the Route 29 interchange, one of the projects funded with concession fee monies, where traffic has been shifted to brand new bridges, making room for Route 29 to be widened in the future and for Metro's Orange Line to be extended in the I-66. At the Route 28 interchange, a total of 13 new bridges are being built. Here you see one of the 901 on the project being lifted into place. So far, 8 bridges are complete, 5 more to go at the 28 interchange. As work has progressed in this interchange, additional travel connections have been added, such as at the new overpass at the Braddock-Walney intersection. One of the 28 bridges will allow bikes and pedestrians to travel through the complicated interchange without interacting with vehicles. Moving to the east. Moving to the east, new bridges have been built over Springfellow Road to make room for the Metro and median and 2 new express lanes. A major part of the project is the complete reconstruction of the existing pavement on I-66. The project as a whole will place over 2.5 million tons of asphalt. And just this past September, 165 tons of asphalt in place, setting new monthly high for the project. Bridge demolition, seen here at the Route 50 westbound span over I-66, has been a big part of the I-66 project. All total, 17 bridges are being demolished along the corridor. As you can see, much of this work occurs in overnight hours, but we keep traffic away from the demolition activities. To date, 13 bridges have been demolished, so 4 more to go. The Route 50 interchange reconstruction includes new overpasses, ramps, and connections to the express lanes. Overall, the project is reconstructing 12 interchanges along the corridor. Another concession fee project is the widening Germantown Road Bridge that, when completed, will provide 4 lanes along the pedestrian route. Here, traffic is on the new bridge while the bridge construction continues for the ultimate 4-lane bridge. The Route 123 interchange, seen here, includes new bridges over I-66, as well as express lanes ramps to and from both the east and the west. You can see these ramps begin to take shape in the median of I-66. At Vaden Drive, new ramps are under construction connecting the new Vaden Drive Bridge over I-66. This will allow for transit connectivity at the Vienna GMU metro station. At the Nutley interchange, 2 loop ramps have recently reopened. Drivers should expect new travel patterns as the interchange continues to develop. Seen here are stormwater management ponds and their temporary configuration, keeping sediment from leaving the project work area. Let's pave. At the Gallows Road Bridge, okay, this is the Gallows Road Bridge, here looking south towards the Dunmoring Metro Station. Northbound traffic was shifted to the new bridge at 4 p.m. today. Later next week, southbound traffic will also be shifted to the new bridge, and then the delicate operation of bridge demolition over the Orange Line and I-66 will begin in late October. And finally, here we are at the 495 interchange, where connections are being made to the 495 express lanes, the general purpose lanes on the Capital Beltway, all of keeping traffic and metro trains moving. Just this past weekend, steel girders were placed over the southbound lanes of I-495, requiring a detour of all 495 southbound traffic overnight. This one span is the longest on the project at 248 feet. The best news to me was that all the beams were placed over the weekend that we wanted to, and there was no news about this operation. So we thank the traveling public for bearing with us as we work in this constrained corridor. We look forward to the 66 express lanes opening to traffic in December 2022. As we continue to work in the corridor, we ask drivers to stay alert and to stay safe. Pretty impressive. Okay. Do you have anything else to say before we go to questions? Well, now I have a piece of paper, so that was like the fun part.
I think so. So, did anyone have any questions on the?
Just a basic question. Have you had problems with the increased costs in asphalt, steel, rebar, et cetera?
We have not, because it's a, it was a fixed price bid.
But they are having problems.
I think across the industry, we're seeing, challenges. There've been in this strange times, there've been some benefits. We have much reduced traffic. We had many more lane closures that we could do because of the lower traffic volumes. And now we're starting to see some of the not so great effects. I think across the industry, labor, supply chain, you're hearing about that across all industries, but ours as well.
Were you able to be ahead of schedule because of the lower traffic?
We still anticipate that we will be open to tolling on December of 2022. Yes, on schedule.
How's your safety record on this project in terms of workers?
In terms of industry standards, we are below the industry standard when you look at the incident rate, reportable incident rate. We have had a couple of issues, safety issues, as you might expect on any big project, but they have been within the range of what we would have expected on a project this size.
Any fatality?
We have had one fatality.
Follow-up question on that. Is this a project labor agreement or not?
No. So there are very robust disadvantaged business and small business and women-owned business goals on the project. So I would say that.
So I don't know what the industry standard is. So when you say it's within the industry standard, although a little higher, help me understand what the industry standard is.
So I can get those numbers. I don't have them off the top of my head, but I know that we look at those industry rates based on the work hours that are logged, reportable incident rates. And the project overall has a goal themselves, which is set well below industry standard. They're actually are working to try to get down, to the goal that they set for the project, which was very, I guess, an ambitious goal to be, lower than the industry standard. But I can certainly get those precise data points.
Thank you.
Okay. So now I'll turn to our 66 outside the Beltway concession fee projects update. And, Monica did a good job kind of giving the background for how these projects were identified. Just a reminder, and this is based on the requirements of the fee, any project selected have to benefit the toll facility user. They have to be a project that could be funded federally, but when they're funded with this, it does not mean that they are a federalized type project. It needs to meet one of the project improvement goals, move more people, enhance transportation connectivity, improve transit service, reduce roadway congestion, or increase travel options. And then, as Monica mentioned, has to be selected and recommended by the MBTA and then approved by the Commonwealth Transportation Board. So this slate of projects that you see on the next two slides gives a very high-level overview. There is a handout at the after the slide deck that gives you a little bit more detailed information about each of the projects, where they are in terms of how much has been billed, what the current completion date estimated is, and what the status of the project is. But this is a high-level summary just of the projects broken out into 4 categories. So there are 4 projects within the Transform 66 project. Those are well underway. You saw the Route 29 work, which is the second project listed here. That's the largest one that we're undertaking within the project. The Poplar Tree Road Bridge is constructed and open to traffic since November of 2020. You saw the Germantown Road bridge as we saw in the video, and then Monument Drive design is nearly completed, and that construction is anticipated to get underway later this year. In terms of and those are all being done within the project footprint by the FAM contractor. The transit improvement projects, there's a range of those. Fairfax County is working on a commuter parking garage and transit station center at Fairfax Corner. That design build procurement is underway. The East Falls Church Metro Rail Station bus bay expansion. That project has been delayed a little bit with some other activities coordinating in that area. But design is underway and they expect construction to begin in 2022. The Prince William Western Bus Maintenance and Storage Facility is complete and opened. Began operations out of that facility in 2021, which really helps bus service in this corridor to have more immediate access and better access to maintenance facilities. And then VRE has a number of projects for inline improvements. They noted that they have ordered, one of their projects is to order rail cars, and they anticipate delivery in 2025. But they have another number of projects that are underway. And then we heard about the Nutley Street project that the town of Vienna is working on. The city of Fairfax has the George Snyder Trail. That construction is planned to begin in the fall of 2023. VDOT is doing some pedestrian improvements as well at the Lead Highway sidewalk improvements, and that has right-of-way underway with construction in 2022. And then on the next slide, there's several roadway projects. Several of these are in the first three in Prince William County, and we'll talk about those in a bit, but design build for the widening of Ballsport Road the first project is the interchange project. That is, construction is underway and on schedule to open to traffic in late 2022. And then there's two roadway projects that are being widened around in Ballsport Road area. The first one was a new project that was added, I believe, last year with design underway, and then the Ballsport Road widening with the construction contract that was just awarded here in August of 2021. And then the last two projects are VDOT led projects. Route 50 in Waples Mill is a small intersection project that's very close to the 66 corridor. And then the Route 29 widening, it's a much larger project with design underway. Out of the total $500 million available based on this progress and what's happened today, a little over $112 million has been drawn down from the concession fee account. Now, sometimes there might have been more spent. It just, agencies have to come to us and request the money, but that's where we stand with our fee based on our records.
Prince William made out real well. It's like the MBTA might have been from Prince William or something.
So the next two slides show generally the concession amounts in one column as to what's been approved up through September of 2021. So I'll have to adjust that after tonight. So I know that you did adjust one. Where you see adjustments in that far right column, those are potential shortfall or surplus. And so on this first page, you can see that the Ballsport Road, the Devlin Road widening had been at 25 million. That estimate has been increased by the county to 32 million. Their design is advanced further. They're getting better information on utilities and right of way. They know they've got sound walls to build now. So there's a number of factors that have caused that project to increase, estimate to increase. On the roadway widening project from Groveton to 234, that price actually went down. So they had previously been approved for $67 million. Their current estimate all in is $47.7 million. So savings there, and that was based on bid prices that they got in recently, and so that's to the benefit, I guess, of overall what funds might be available in the future. Fairfax County also reduced their estimate for the commuter parking structure from 43.4 million down to 39.8. So that's another 3.6 million in surplus. And then the Nutley Street, which was just approved, so we'll be showing that approved amount to 495,000. So that would zero out then. And then on the next slide, the three projects that are highlighted are ones that they have expended all of their funds. They've drawn down all their funds. The money is, complete. So I just thought we would highlight that. And then you can see last year, funds available was $488,017. That was not, applied to any project. And that you can see, based on these estimates that have recently been updated, we're showing a $16.1 million funds that would be available within the 500 million. And the last slides are just some progress slides. So you can see the 28 interchange here, which we saw quite a bit on the video. You can also see on the next slide, the Route 29 interchange. My favorite thing is to drive under 66 on 29. All the old bridges are gone, the piers are gone, and you can envision how 29 actually could have better pedestrian and a wider roadway now. But it's also good for 66. So just a lot of improvements at that interchange. And then the last is just congratulations on opening the Western Bus Maintenance Facility. So with that,
All right,
Take any
wonderful.
questions.
Okay, I have a question.
He's trying to steal third.
The options. So, in Prince William County at 66 and so just past 66 and 29, was there a need for any eminent domain of houses that they would be on the left side? Did we eminent domain houses in that area at all?
So if you're heading
Into
Manassas on the west
Yes.
side, I mean, we did do property takes. So there's some that are sitting up on the hill.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, so we did take partial takes. There were no total takes
Okay,
in that process.
okay.
Now, whether we had to use eminent domain, I'd have to go back and look at
But you did
each
do
case.
partial take.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I thought so. Anybody else?
Chair Randa, if I could, so you notice the surplus or the unprogrammed amount. We are having conversations with some of the localities regarding the usage of that money. I've talked to 2 localities that they're running into some cost overruns or additional costs, and they would like to try to utilize that money. We will have the discussion when the localities or localities in the case may be, submit that to the RJAC. We will have the discussion at the RJAC and then come back to the authority and make a recommendation. But I also bring in the time so she can be aware before it gets to the authority to make sure that there are no issues when it gets to the authority, and definitely no issues when it goes before the Commonwealth Transportation Board.
Okay, all right. Thank you, I appreciate that. Wonderful, thank you. Thank you for that presentation. That was very interesting. Okay, we are skipping to item number 10. The Joint Commission on Transportation Accountability Annual Report.
So thank you, Madam Chair. So it is that time of year again where we do file with the Joint Commission on Transportation Accountability an annual report that details the usage or the expenditures of the revenues received as part of HB 2313. We usually bring this report to the authority at your November meeting. However, because Veterans Day is the second Thursday of the month, which is the day you would normally meet. Your November meeting is now the third Thursday of the month, which is after the filing deadline for this report. Now, and we file on time. We do file on time. So we do have in the packet the annual report to the Joint Commission on Transportation and Accountability. We detail the 70% funded project and also how the localities are programming the 30%.
Okay.
We do put this information on the website because we do get requests or inquiries regarding what's going on with the 30%. Just as a reminder, there is no sunset provision on a locality's usage of the 30% revenue. You know, some localities are banking it for larger projects. Other localities are spending it now. It just really depends on the needs of that particular locality, provided that it is in accordance with the law. So we do have a detailed list, if you turn to the back of the report, of the projects that are being funded with both the 70 and the 30% revenues. And after this evening, we will file this report.
Wonderful. Right. Any questions on this, please? So Monica, for the, for the 30%, is the congestion relief relative to cost still applicable for the 30%?
No.
I didn't think so.
Yeah, for the 30%, and how your project has to be in the long range transportation plan or serve a capital improvement purpose or for public transportation purposes.
Okay, all right, wonderful, wonderful. Any other questions? Seeing none, Governance and Personnel Committee, Ms. Gaynor.
Running in circles. I do. We had great discussion at the Governance and Personnel Committee. I provided an update on a number of items that are considered for our 2022 legislative program. I'm going to go through a couple of them in the interest of time. I know there was a lot of interest in the adopted Virginia electric vehicle rebate program and wanting to have more details about what were the equity parts of the statute adopted. And I'm happy to say that all the categories that you all had concerns for are actually in the adopted bill. It is for purchase or lease of electric vehicles, electric battery vehicles. There is a cap on the price of a new vehicle of $65,000 and a cap of $25,000 on used vehicles of less than 2 years, more than 2 years and less than 7 years old. There's also for buying or leasing. There's a base $2,500 rebate available for any Virginia resident. But if you are a household or an individual with an annual household income that is 300% or less of the federal poverty guidelines, there is an additional $2,500 rebate awarded to you, either for a used or new car or lease or purchase. So that is wonderful. But the program was, things like it's structured correctly, but it was not funded.
And the discussion we had today in GPC was the discussion about the rebates and also is there going to be any money coming for infrastructure of electric vehicles? Because everyone buying electric vehicles does nothing if you can't go charge it somewhere. So that was a discussion we were having today. And
so as you might recall, when all the agencies proposed funding for spending of the American Rescue Plan funding special session, VDOT had requested $50 million to help with electric vehicle charging. Governor didn't put it in his budget for the special session. I think there's a lot more discussion that CTV and VDOT and others are going to be having about sort of what is the strategy for doing that. I expect that VDOT will once again look for money for that. I know General Assembly members are interested. Senator Boysko is working on that. So I expect that there will be some discussion of funding for capital expansion of electric vehicle charging infrastructure when we get to the 2022 General Assembly session. So clearly, we're going to want to weigh in on that, encourage that to be done. Clearly, we're going to want to speak to what role they're going to have with local governments, public-private partnerships, all of that. So again, the all over, ongoing discussion about electrification of the transportation sector, I would say the next phase will be 2022 session, but there'll be more even after that. That'll be
So
going on.
I'm going to ask our assembly members what I asked you earlier. As far as the infrastructure for electric vehicles, do you think, or what do you think could happen differently based on what happens on November 2nd?
I'm on the House side where the tax issues and the budget are separate. And so as we worked on all of the provisions for the rebate, making sure that you included used vehicles and that you had the extra incentive for lower income. Because as the bill first came before us, I was very concerned that you were rewarding people that were going to buy anyway. And that the emphasis of the tax, of the rebate, should be to get more people into more efficient vehicles. Even a used vehicle, if you couldn't have afforded any kind of an EV, would be a net gain in emissions. At the same time, in all those discussions, and it was quite intense in shaping that package, the issue of infrastructure was always front and center, saying to the Automobile Dealers Association, when you have customer reluctance, isn't that reluctance as much over the distance that one can travel and the reliability of being able to find charging stations as it is cost? And to which they all agree. So all I can say from our work, which was quite focused, that once it got up into the budget situation, the priorities just had not been established. Quite honestly, I would say of what we intensely looked at last short session, that the housing, low-income housing assistance took higher priority when you got to it. And I'm trying to remember whether that was $20 million or what we did, what we ended up
For
funding.
rental, for rental assistance.
Well, no, more in terms of construction.
Oh, construction, I think it was 20.
Housing, and expanding under the federal program considerably. So that's what happened, given available dollars, as I understand it, from what the budget negotiation was.
Yeah.
But you're on the budget side, on the Senate side.
Yeah, and so I think your question about what could change if there was a drastic change in what the voters decide to do. The industry, the car industry, the environmental industry, there was enormous opportunity for economic development in expanding and electrifying our transportation system. And so you still have the business argument front and center. And there are a number of businesses that are watching from around the country to see what we're going to do. You have auto manufacturers as well as the dealers all asking for this. I mean, they sent us joint letters saying, this is what we want you to get behind us. And so it's my hope that we will continue to have that kind of pressure from the business community in the event that things, if the voters choose to go a different direction this year.
One of the things we had talked about at GPC was this question though of what is the right balance between public versus private provision of charging infrastructure? As I sort of keep joking, government, either state or local, is not in the business of providing gas stations, right? And so the expectation is interesting. So I wonder both, we had some speculatory conversation, and I don't know if anybody from VDOT or GRPT or CV, the Commonwealth Transportation Board would weigh in or has seen anything about this, but sort of what the state had been thinking about or was studying in terms of what that request or what those funds would be used for when it comes to charging infrastructure. And then what you all are hearing from industry. I mean, is the expectation of industry that these will be publicly funded and publicly operated, or are they looking for investment from the state to do public-private partnerships?
As I experienced that kind of a dialogue, essentially we're looking at critical mass.
Mm-hmm.
At what point do you have enough of an infrastructure besides the storage battery issue and the improvements and the competition between manufacturers that are going on. Where can we, with public dollars, put critical station charging capacity, including looking at heavy vehicles, where you have the advantage of heavy vehicles, whether they're construction or school buses or whatever it may be, having overnight to be able to fully charge. And that might be a place where public sector money is properly applied. So it obviously is a new situation, but I can assure you that kind of targeted look of where public money ought to go is absolutely robust dialogue. And the expectation is that in the out years, that as you just described it, the private sector will determine. May I digress for a second, Madam Chair? There was an interesting study of a regular vehicle, I think the distance was 2,000 miles.
Hybrid?
Well, a regular hybrid, I'm trying to think what make it was, and a, now I'm blocking on the name of the EV vehicles. Come on. We all know what I'm talking about.
That's Tesla.
Tesla. And that the distance, Tesla was 6 hours below what the regular vehicle did, or 6 hours or more to travel. But the other vehicle was like 10, 12, 13 hours, much, much longer because of the reliability of finding charging, whereas the Tesla computer system and its system of identifying exactly where to go was so much more accurate that it was only 6 hours longer to take the lengthy trip. So it's that sort of competition as we see a lot more manufacturers going in, as Tesla has put a lot more money into charging stations as well. That will be what you've just described of, does the private sector have a skin in this game, or are they expecting us to? No, there's competition, and you will see that.
They needed to sell their product. Well, and also sure, just from my perspective, I'm so glad you had a conversation about public infrastructure, charging buses, school buses, municipal buses is the top of mind, because I think that's exactly the right role for it. And
just, Madam Chair, let me just add something. So last year, we authorized a study that would look at public infrastructure, airplanes, buses, locating where, like apartment houses, making sure that if we're looking at building code in the future, we need to take into consideration the need for charging in urban areas. And so I think the study that they're doing is really a more of a holistic thing, not saying that we're going to fund it all, but saying this is the blueprint that we need for an optimization of this kind of deployment of electric vehicles.
We had 40,000 left over from some project a couple of years ago, and so we put 4 stations in the city. We're a small jurisdiction. 2 next to City Hall and 2 in our historic downtown park. They're all free, and they're very popular and they're very successful right now. I do acknowledge this issue of critical mass down the road, but for now, I mean, I don't see it as an inappropriate use of public money. I will also, just as a footnote to this discussion, our planning and development staff has said to all builders in the city, if someone's building a new townhouse community or single family homes, while we're not requiring it, each time an application comes in, we sit down and say, please include chargers in the garages of these new structures. So I think that probably is going to have more of an impact long term than public or for-profit charging stations. Just having more homes with that amenity in it.
My hearing. Just a small anecdote from CTV, because we look at the
roadside rest, the rest areas. And that's kind of in our bailiwick. And so a year or two ago, when the W money first started coming, somebody asked at CTV, well, couldn't we put some charging stations into rest stops? And right now, my understanding is we're precluded by code from doing that, federal law from doing that. So,
Oh, yeah.
so yeah, that's just another, but it seems like such an obvious place to put charging stations. So I just offer that as
Do we
like.
know why we put it by federal law?
It has to do with, you cannot put commercial activity that competes with a gas station essentially at rest stops. While there were some states that were grandfathered, most states were not. So that's why you find so little commercial activity
That's why
at
we
rest
can only
stops.
vending machines.
Right, and you have to fight to get I know, but it's true, right? Yeah,
Jim just said there's the vending machines are serviced by the.
They have first priority.
They have first priority.
Yeah.
So anyway, so
Try to take that
that's,
away.
I just thought that would
That
be
is very
interesting.
interesting. That
You know.
explains so much of my childhood driving across the because of her father, so much. It's fascinating and ridiculous.
Maybe we should talk to the Biden people.
Not right now.
Right, if I could just add a quote, Madam Chair, and then I'll be done. We have begun talking about this at the commission or the Regional Transportation Commission, and in fact, the team is working on a zero emissions bus study. And I really think this is such a great opportunity for regional collaboration, and so I would surface that for us. You know, I think, for example, about how not to be too specific about a project that will be applying for this next 6-year plan update, but we're proposing to build a second station entrance at Boston, which really is going to be a regional project because this is where long haul commuter buses from Fairfax Bowden can come and drop off and all connect to the metro. If there's some opportunity to put charging infrastructure there that could be, and I know, you know, right now the charge is too long for a bus to do that on a layover, but that technology is leaps and bounds. And so I hope that'll be something, you know, that we can look to play a role as a regional body. And partner with you all the state. We're looking for these charging opportunities.
Probably already said enough, but that's exactly the kind of strategic thinking that that we're trying to do. I believe the industry is trying to do as well. They're putting a lot of investment into retooling for this type of vehicle, and so as well as then, as you say, permeated into every transportation decision. Not automatic, but can this strategically fill a need that wouldn't be met otherwise?
Okay, we're gonna go on to, you want to do the rest of the report?
Yeah, I'll just do one more issue. We'll do the electronic meeting concept. So you all recall that our 2021 legislative program was supportive of making permanent within the code the ability to have electronic meetings, which we all use for great effectiveness during states of emergency, and General Assembly Governor did pass that. It's in the code now. The Freedom of Information Act Council, FOIA Council, continues been having discussions about whether there could be further flexibility provided to public bodies to meet either all virtually or what's been called a hybrid meeting, which is what we're having today, or your full meetings to be recorded. And so there is a draft concept bill that the subcommittee has adopted or endorsed. They're going to review it again later this month, likely. Then we expect the full FOIA council to take up in November and December. But it looks like there will be legislation that will come forward. The legislation, and again, as you might recall, the stakeholders are public bodies, they are the media, they are open sunshine government folks, and where they've come to is they wanted to have sort of one definition that would apply to all public bodies or all regional bodies about when you could have a hybrid meeting and how that had to be structured, and when you're going to meet virtually 100%. You know, what are the criteria? You know, public access, reporting, being able to stream, have a phone number they can be called. They're all set. As we were discussing in the Governance and Personnel Committee, that's a great first step. But there's still a need to have, and it was best said that two things. One, the public bodies should be allowed to make some of these decisions themselves. and maybe not have as much that is dictated by the state. And two, instead of saying you can have no more than X number of meetings that are all virtual or hybrid, could you look at it a different way and say, you have to have at least this many meetings in full, all in person. And so the proposed position will be to say, keep moving forward, but let's continue to have these discussions for more flexibility, letting the individual body with criteria, make those decisions. And can we have the premise be, at minimum, you have this many in-person meetings? And again, the default should be, I think everyone's really comfortable, the default should be in person. But it's more about the body controlling it more than the state in recommendation. Did I capture that correctly?
You did. I think the part that you missed out was the discussion we had about whether the body is an elected body or an appointed
Yes,
body.
that's right.
Yeah.
There might be different roles for citizen advisory bodies because it could help actually more people participate and serve on these entities. So there's elected bodies, appointed bodies, but then there's citizen advisory. There could be even greater flexibility for those, if only to allow more people to be part of the process.
And one reason is because, like the person that on your break, the press always find you and comes up to you and asks you questions. But that doesn't happen in with the AWOB or the DSS committee or the, whatever. They don't, press not even there. So why not allow people to do that more often or have more flexibility around that?
Well, I was just gonna say, unfortunately, my understanding of where this compromise has been headed, though, with the Coalition for Open Government and the Press Association, is that it's very important to them that there would be one set of standards.
Yeah.
And so I agree. I'm seeing head nods. I think this notion that elected bodies are very different than appointed bodies is intuitive to all of us at the local level. And so I think, we may want to look for ways to make our voices heard before that compromise keeps making its way down the tracks. And that sense of simplicity of understanding and application carries the day over what I think to me seems obvious, and based on the head nods seems obvious to others, that there really should be separate standards for those who are elected and accountable to voters and those who are volunteering their time on this development.
When you're appointing somebody, one of the first questions they ask is how much time is it up there? What's the time commitment? That's one of the first questions they ask for that very reason.
So just to, I guess maybe add to it a little bit of the standard that they're really using now versus like what's being looked at right now is basically if you are not casting a binding vote like an action item, then it's totally fine to participate virtually. They really want you there in person on action items. And so, which is a little bit different than like, hey, let's, like for example, I serve on a lot of different commissions and stuff, Senator Voisko, Delegate Watts, I know all of you do as well. And of course, board member Crystal's on like 40. But like for a lot of those, like I'm on the Hand in Hands Advisory Commission, which basically deals with like pro-neurotypical, a lot of issues with this. And what we'll do, so it's a very long acronym. So basically,
It's just like some Kansas.
It's something that's very much related to neuropathy issues, autism related.
All right.
So anyways, so as part of this commission, we will meet virtually, but they do have in-person meetings now. But because we haven't had these major votes and action items like that, it's been more allowable for us to be able to meet remotely. However, the default standard, especially when we're dealing with the press, I was a reporter for 10.5 years. I have been bored in many, many commission meetings and council meetings and advisory boards and everything else you can think of. You do need to have that public engagement and being able to have someone who can be there. So even if it's not everyone, even as we have the hybrid model tonight, maybe this is the sort of thing where we can try to find that common ground where, let's be honest with what works in the 21st century versus making sure that we still have transparency.
Just go ahead.
The electronic meeting model has been so important. It's so beneficial. And I personally have grown to love it. But I think the one thing that we should keep in mind is the importance of real-time, in-person human contact. And I think that is so important. It's especially important when listening to the voice of the public. And to board member Crystal's point, we're elected, we're responsible to the public. And when you hear someone speaking in public as opposed to just receiving an email and having the secretary read the email or whatever record, I think it's so important because I know Supervisor Franklin can testify to this. Also, the PRTC, we have a situation where there was a certain amount of turmoil in a particular action that had been taken. And it was so important for everyone to hear the impact that it had on people, on real people. Their lives were turned upside down and everyone sitting at that table needed to hear them in person. So I would just make a suggestion that we please consider placing a qualifier such as within reason in the statement that we're going to send down there. And that we not get the impression that perhaps the sky's the limit. As it's important to be very careful. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator and then delegate.
So I agree with Board Member Crystal about allowing the local groups who are volunteers to be able to call in. But we have seen I know I'm on a number of boards and commissions and committees where we can't get a quorum anymore. And a number of our important meetings have been canceled because when they do the quorum call, it's not happening in here, thank goodness. People are somehow not able to get away anymore.
For elected officials.
So I think that we need to be cognizant of how we frame this so that we can continue to get our work done.
Wait a minute, let me say that back to you, what I think I just heard. You're saying you can't get a quorum in the General Assembly subcommittees for elected officials?
Not general assembly.
Not, so it's the boards and commissions of.
Oh, okay,
So,
okay, but so not elected officials?
no, yes.
No, they're
elected
elected
officials, yes.
That's
It is
another whole
primarily
entirely
elected officials.
another issue.
And then you're not.
Yeah, that's.
So I think there is just some ambiguity in what's acceptable and what's not. And we need some real clarity to say you are expected to be here. And it's okay if you call in.
I think we just saw the stark difference between local and state government too.
There is a travel. I think the traveling issue has now melted into people's rights. We've been at home for 2 years.
Which I'll just stay with that and then go with the 2 points that number of special sessions took up a lot of time, especially since there wasn't a time frame on the one last fall. So you've got a lot of people with real business conflicts, and the difference between, and I think I'm speaking for most every local official in the room, your salary is significantly more than our salary is. And so you have people who are really pressured to do their business. $17,000 a year.
Per hour? Per hour?
I'll
take that back.
But the issue is, can you have people in the General Assembly who can support their family if they are constantly having to travel the long distance for that? So who knows where they'll come out, but it's those 3 factors, the fact that our salary has stayed at 17,000, the special session demands have kept a lot of people on the road, and then the distance. Those are those issues that are still being resolved. I personally hope that our standard will still always be that a quorum has to be live, unless we are back into the kind of restrictions of the heart of the pandemic. And then the third observation that I would make is when we talk about one standard, there's a big difference in my mind between planning commission and, let's say, a police review board meeting in person than there would be, and who knows about the subject, it may be the Parks Board is also equally controversial. So I cannot just automatically say that because it's citizen board, like the planning commission, as opposed to elected, that there's a difference given the weight of the decisions being made by, again, staying with the planning commission.
I think that's what we're saying, like let jurisdictions have some say over that research.
I just want to ask a question about hearings, Tracy, because
most of my experience these days is regional hearing. And my observation is that when we were allowed to have people call in and not have, actually take their oral testimony over the phone, that we actually had better participation. So it would be my hope that for the public, we don't require them to be in person in order to testify. And I just want to make sure.
So actually, the concept very much allows that. I think, again, it does reflect lessons learned, things we did experience during the pandemic, which goes exactly what you're saying. Public participation, particularly public comment or testimony, was greater for almost everybody because there was the provision to allow them to submit that remotely, whether it was a call, whether it was however it was done. So it would still allow that. That would still be.
So you just have to say at the front end of your meeting, we're going to take testimony in the following ways, and
right. And some, like, I know, at least I think folks here, I noticed that many of you are doing public comment both ways now. You're allowing in person and remote.
And I think that's the way.
Yeah, because you got such a great response from remote.
But I just want to make sure there wasn't anything.
Yeah, no, there's nothing virtually bad.
I don't want to get too parasitic about all this, but you made a Delegate Watts made a reference to planning commissions versus elected bodies. Planning commissions do get paid per meeting.
So that might be your.
And I think statutorily created boards and commissions, whether it's Board of Equalization or a Board of Zoning Appeals, might be different from our Commission on the Arts or the Commission for Women. They are totally volunteer. And I would like to be able to make a differentiation between those that for whom they get absolutely no compensation.
Like I say, I think we may have been the only county in the Commonwealth that never left the dais during COVID. We did not miss a meeting in person. Y'all didn't either. We did not close down. We didn't miss a meeting. We didn't close a booth. We did every meeting. We had a forum on the dais all through COVID. And so, I think it's really important to be in person. Not to mention, I'm a therapist, and so just the body language and what you can't catch over a Zoom call, whatever, is really, really important. However, I'll go back to what Ms. Crystal and I have been saying. To some degree, I think a one size fits all just doesn't work. It has to be something we prefer to something the jurisdictions decided for themselves with some kind of minimum about how much you have to be the person, some kind of statement, but overall, especially for our unelected advisory boards of citizens, that the jurisdictions can have some of those discussions themselves.
I think that's exactly right. And the panoply of anecdata that we're getting, right, is an exact illustration of that. My planning commission doesn't look like Justin's, right? Let alone look like the town of Bluefield. And so the notion that these determinations are being made for when one size doesn't even fit all among planning commissions, let alone arts commissions and so forth. So to me, I just wanted, if I could put in a plea, since we do have members of the General Assembly here, for that flexibility. And I think, the emerging consensus, I'm trying to find it, Ms. Maynard rustled it up for us, has a bunch of restrictions on if you're going to have an electronic meeting, here are all of the ways that the public needs to be able to participate. Here are all of the guardrails. And to me, that's important. We should figure out what is it that we want to protect, the public's ability to watch and follow along and comment and participate. And then let the jurisdictions and the bodies come up with whether that can be best done virtually, hybrid, or in person. Because it's just simply impossible to come up, exactly as the chair said, with one size fits all. So what is the problem we're trying to solve? Public should have access to those people doing their business. And I think there are some really good suggestions about how that's done. I think trying to have this state standard about number of meetings in person versus virtual is our problem. Let's figure out what the goal is and let's legislate for the goal. So that's my plea for it anyway.
This is a robust conversation. It's a great conversation. Jeff, you have anything you want to?
No, you can't participate because it's virtual.
Yeah.
Don't let him weigh in on this.
I'm in a state of shock.
Who is that person?
Okay, guys have, that's pretty much all we covered.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
Those are two issues you all.
Although, you know, we had a really good conversation about this in GPC. too.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, very important issues. Mr. Lumby, you want to do, all the 12, kind of, boom, boom, boom?
Thank you, Chair Randall. Actually, I don't have anything to add to the staff report.
Okay.
Just summarize, we ended, these reports can basically conclude last fiscal year, and we ended all categories in very positive fashion.
Wonderful, thank you. And in the program, Mr. Wilson, you have anything?
Yeah, we, sorry. There we are. We did meet, on October 4th. We got an update on the public engagement activities, which has been extensive. And then we had another conversation, a very spirited conversation around the goals, objectives, and transaction. Didn't necessarily solve anything, but provided a lot of input, a lot of different opinions about the best ways to measure success as we implement that plan. So more to come.
All right, wonderful. And your planning coordination and tech advisory committee report is in your package. So Ms. Backman, do you have anything you want to say?
Well, Madam Chair, thank you. And then I would note the PCAC report and the TAC report are in your package, but at your November meeting, the chair of the TAC will be here so you can see him live and in person. Because you're always seeing the report, so he will be here to field any questions or comments you may have. And at your December meeting, the chair of the PCAC, Mayor Colbert, is planning to be on hand if you have any questions for her. Because these committees have been meeting, they are your statutorily mandated committees. So they've been working in tandem with the Planning and Programming Committee as we update transactions. For my ED report, the only thing I will add, you can call for projects for the FY22 to 2027 6-year program did close on October 1. And I say this with a grain of salt. We received 27 applications totaling $1.3 billion. Now, the reason why I put a grain of salt on it, we are still doing our QA/QC, and the resolutions in support of those applications are due December 3rd. If we do not have all of the resolution, the application is really discarded for this funding cycle. The resolution from the governing body is definitely required. But again, $1.3 billion. What I can definitely tell you, we don't have $1.3 billion. That's the takeaway. We will start our discussions regarding the potential revenues we think we'll have for this funding program. I think we're going to start in December, Mike, because we have to wait for the revenue projection that the state is going to get as well, and that's going to come out in December. So that's all I had, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I do not have any chair comments, except for we like to see everybody in person, actually. So they have enjoyed that. For the good of the body, any other comments? Ms. Franklin, we'd like to have you here today. Thank you so much. Thank you. Everybody, we are adjourned.
Well,
A friend. I would love to. I hate.